fitting that we have our honorary chair and the Speaker of the House of Commons to have the last word. Ladies and gentlemen, I've already introduced Peter Milliken. Please join me in welcoming Peter, who is Canada's foremost expert on parliamentary history and tradition, and I would like him to join us and say a few words about who he thinks Canada's greatest Prime Minister was. Please, Peter Milliken.
Merci beaucoup, honorable collègues, mesdames et messieurs. It's a great pleasure to be with you tonight. J'apprécie beaucoup l'invitation d'être votre président honoraire pour la soirée et d'être en compagnie avec deux anciens premiers ministres. I am delighted to have this chance, and I was asked to name my favorite Prime Minister, my top Prime Minister. And I said to myself, my goodness, speakers don't do that. I certainly couldn't express any preference among any of those that I've served with in the House, and I had the privilege of serving with both Mr. Crick and Mr. Clark at one time or another. Well, not when Joe was the Prime Minister, but in the House, in any event, as members, we served there together. And I have served a number of Prime Ministers and wouldn't dare express a preference in respect of any of those. So I thought I'd restrict myself to what you might expect. And to congratulate the Macdonald-Laurier Institute on organizing this event and doing their work, but also to say who, of course, was the best or the second best or whatever Prime Minister. So I said, I have two, and I'm going to name two. I'll start with the first one, Sir John A. Macdonald. I have to mention Sir John A., of course, was the member for Kingston, and so needless to say, I have a slight bias in that respect. I have the honor to represent that riding, as Flora MacDonald did for 16 years before I became the member, and delighted working with her and still do occasionally. Of course, Sir John A., you've heard already from him this evening, a lively youth, a good scholar, a voluminous reader, born in Scotland. I'm of Scottish ancestry, so this fits. He apparently remembered names and faces very well, was very cordial in his manner of speech, always ready to say yes rather than no, which is always a good thing for politicians. And it was no surprise, I think, that he became a very successful politician in the course of his life. I wouldn't presume to place myself at the same level as he was, but of course he had some similarities with me. He was bookish, self-confident, yet humble. He became a lawyer. He entered politics after he'd become a lawyer and of course represented Kingston. So it's true that his political party was different from my own, but then I have my flaws too. So I'm delighted to be able to say that Sir John is one of the people I put at the top of the list of favorite Prime Ministers, but I'm tying it up because he worked on building our relationship with the British Empire and maintained that our freedom as a nation depended upon its unity and its strength. And I want to quote another of my two favorite Prime Ministers, Sir Wilfrid Laurier, who on June 8, 1891, 2 days after the death of Sir John, he described him as, quote, Canada's most illustrious son, and in every sense, Canada's foremost citizen and statesman. So, Sir John A. will be remembered for his tact, his amiability, and of course for his unending patience, and on he went. But he gave a great deal to Canada and did a wonderful job for us. And if I can quote another comment about him, a former Prime Minister, Arthur Meehan, who we're honouring tomorrow on Parliament Hill by unveiling his portrait again, it wasn't officially unveiled before, stated in an address that he delivered in 1941 at a commemoration service held in Kingston to mark the 50th anniversary of Sir John A.'s death. He said, if we govern ourselves, each one of us, by the principles which governed him, if we work as he worked, dare and he dared, and follow the star that lighted his life, we will serve our country as we ought to serve it, and with God's help, we will save it. So there's a good quote about Sir John from another subsequent Prime Minister. Without repeating too much about what we've already heard tonight about Sir Wilfrid, what I most admire about him was his skillful statesmanship and his ability, like Macdonald, to negotiate. He established himself as a man of principle and high ideals, which helped him gain the respect and praise from both English-speaking and French-speaking Canadians. And throughout his career, he emphasized moderation and compromise, which eventually led to the relations of church and state, which remain fairly strong in Canada today. So I think he did a wonderful job as our Prime Minister. He brought Canadians together, and of course, as Mr. Gratian mentioned, he was responsible a lot for the development of the western part of our country and bringing Canada into being a country from sea to sea, and now we say to sea. But a great man who dedicated very much to our country, and I'm pleased as Speaker to say that I have two favorite Prime Ministers. Those are the two, and it happens to work with the Macdonald-Laurier Institute, which makes it even easier for me to make that choice. And accordingly, I declare those two the greatest. And if you have a glass in your hand, I suggest you raise it in a toast to our two former Prime Ministers, Sir John A. Macdonald and Sir Wilfrid Laurier.
And Sir John A. might have said, I'll drink to that.